Do not try this at home.
Hello and welcome to the Why Work podcast series. You are listening to Trajce Vitkovsky, Sara and Alan Girl.
We spread like a new disease. You wanna war, but this ain't TV. We come in by forced entry. The mugs from backwater Brizzy.
Okay, Trajce, I'm going to call it there. You've taken us to the stars, so we're going to let Sara take us to the stars now.
He just interrupts you. Go ahead.
Yep.
Do it again.
Do it again.
Do it again, Alan.
Take three. Take three.
Do it again. All right, Trajce, I'm going to call it there. You've taken us to the stars. Now Sarah's going to take us to the stars.
I have such a great opportunity. It's such a good, interesting case to talk about. The opportunity about work from anywhere. We've been talking about this in different settings and different applications.
Working from home.
Working from home, working from a cafe, working from a sports field, working from the tennis court.
The bees. We're, walking down the street and we've got the bees.
That's it. Working from a cab, teleoperation in mining, working remotely in all kinds of places. What happens when we do shoot for the stars? What happens when we work in space?
This is real.
All right, so now check this out.
Wow.
There is a competition right now. Boeing has sponsored this. This is so cool. Sustainability in space. Give us your pitch. How are you going to address work in space? I love this, okay? Innovative Queensland-based businesses from any sector to gain access and exposure to stakeholders, dealing with what happens in space. Hosted by Boeing, as I said. Give them the accolades for that. There's funding to just start the project, a proof of concept project.
Well, first, Trajce, there's no bees, so it shouldn't be too hard.
Just marshes.
No bees, you're safe. Right? But space is a harsh, remote, challenging environment. We've been talking about when you work remote and the isolation and the psychosocial health risks. Now imagine you're in outer space. Now, I've been watching the Outlander series. I only just discovered it, right? And this woman time travels 200 years, right? And finding her Scottish love.
We're up to season 6. It's nearly finished.
Oh, yeah, I know. I only just discovered it. I'm into it now, right? So don't tell me what the ending yet, all right?
It's pretty good.
Thank you. Okay, I'm waiting for it. It gets a bit silly. But anyway, so she time travels, and there's, insurmountable isolation that comes from when you're not quite fitting in. Imagine if you're outer space. If you're that geographically removed from everything you know in your social world. But space is harsh, remote, challenging environment, all right? That's recognized. So Boeing is working with NASA and other partners to expand human space travel. Now, we've been hearing about, Elon Musk and people saying, hey, I'm traveling to space, and how much do you have to pay to go to space? Is it like $1 million and you get a joyride? It's, we drop in the ocean for some folks. But here, they're inviting people to apply for some sort of strategy, an innovative product or service pivoted around 3 topics. And number 1 is health and well-being in space.
Wow.
Designed for health and well-being in space. There's also sustainable energy and methods to protect from radiation in space.
What? It's going to be more about the interaction between people, isn't it? How do they cope getting along with each other in such an enclosed environment?
Now, wait a minute. So one of the things that I do in heavy industry with, using mining or construction or transportation is looking at the interaction with vehicles, the operators and the maintainers. So get this. There is research on risk of compromised vehicle performance and crew health with inadequate vehicle suits. I love this. The system of operating, it's called an EVA, inability of crew to perform as expected. So can you imagine the special spacesuits that you need to use for exploration and the vehicles that you operate when you're on the moon?
Well, let me just take it back to the TV series Outlander. I mean, can you wear a kilt in space?
I think does it move up? Does it lift high? I'm starting to think this
if you had the character Jamie Fraser in a space station,
Jamie as an astronaut.
That might be a bit too much if you were locked in a can with him for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Just too crazy with Jamie.
So, I mean, how phenomenal is this? EVA suit design parameters, the biomechanical risks you have to monitor, the design parameters around it, decompression sickness, suit design. It's so phenomenal. Considerations. There are risks for crew performance. Extra vehicular activity is called. And it says that the astronauts, this EVA, extra vehicular activity, do about 24 hours a week of EVA. And how are you going to manage
what
those
does
risks?
that mean?
Sorry, extra vehicular activity.
Does that mean they're getting out on a space car and
no, they're walking on the
driving around?
moon, and they've got their suits, and what happens if they decompress? What happens with those factors being in that suit?
And this is a thing. So
This is a thing. There's space flight evidence. There's thermal homeostasis that you have to regulate. There have to be airflow. The air that I breathe, the water that I drink. Right.
So once you've got all of the environmental
How do you stop
stuff.
and pee when you're in a spacesuit?
I did think that was the first thing actually that came to my mind.
Okay, now like that. And we just talked about when I'm, road cruise. I'm out on construction, and I'm saying to the guys, okay, you're in these remote spaces. I'm sorry, or there's no little porta potty. It's not that easy. It's a little more complicated. But I guess when you're out of space, who cares? I've been underground mining in.
No, it's sustainable, so you have to keep the byproduct. You can't just throw it away. You can't just go in an asteroid
now there's
and
biohazard waste here.
blast it out.
Yeah, it's funny how we've quickly gone to that.
We got potty humor so quick.
No,
Sex
I really
and
wanted
potty
to
humor.
Can you use an orchie bottle in space?
For what? Oh, but no. Here's the thing. You'll use it for a lot of things, but here's the thing. Getting back to your very first and foremost, I think it's the most paramount, this business of stir crazy. Let's get back to, you said right at the outset, you're together in a confined space for a long time.
And if it's not, is it confined or restricted? So there are definitions around confined space versus restricted. So just because we've got safety people listening to this, let's just talk. You're in restricted versus confined space.
I guess people listening now are thinking about that.
That's right.
So start with confined.
You're isolated, right? You're on the moon. I'm just reading.
You're in a helmet. It's about as confined as you're going to get.
You're in a helmet. Okay, you're in a helmet.
And your body's in a suit.
And you
can't go the loo.
You're going to look at the thermal regulation. There's
when Jamie Fraser's bouncing past.
In a kilt. Oh, hang on.
In a kilt.
We got lost in space, little robots happening, right?
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Danger Will Robinson.
Yeah, that's it. Will Robinson, you're the same vintage, mate.
We're
the same vintage.
But seriously, if you were going to do a pitch for this, what value would you add?
Oh, I'll add to this. Let me just embellish this a little bit.
You want to go to space.
I want to go to space. Wave past Elon. Hey, dude, I'm here too. Yeah. I'm feeling special in this moment.
Okay, I think this is two things on our bucket list. One is to be set on fire, and the other is to go to space.
Was it the set on fire, just being covered in gel before they set on fire? Anyway, moving right along. So
where there's smoke, there's fire.
Here's some of the Here's some of the things that can happen to you. All right, you can get fingernail and shoulder trauma sustained during extravehicular activity in the training, and there's all these little toenails in black and blue and coming up from this sort of exposure. Oh,
I wouldn't have thought that was a big issue.
Knee and foot trauma.
Can't you cut your toenails when you're in space?
Decompression sickness, right? That happens. Okay.
Yeah, I get that.
There's right. Musculoskeletal injuries are right up there, and minor travel trauma sustained. Common to have hand injuries due to the increased force need to move this pressurized, stiff gloves, repetitive motion for task completion.
Wow!
Right?
Wow! Don't you wonder whether they can't make better gloves for that?
Well, hello, we got people all the time now trying to prop the fact that you wear, as PPE these suits to try and do your manual tasks versus redesign the system. So here are these astronauts in these astronaut suits.
Are they in a confined space or a restricted space? Are they in space?
They're outer space, right? But there are definitions around what is a confined space. That's why I often talk about. I think you're talking about their actual spaceship that you were talking about.
Well,
you're talking about
I'm talking about a lot. Because it's like confined within restriction within space. And look, don't laugh.
What?
But do you think they would go so far with it's going to be a robust and very comprehensive risk assessment? Do you think they will also factor in extraterrestrial life?
Oh, now we'll get there.
Don't laugh, Alan.
On the moon.
I love it.
Just in space,
Just in
baby.
case, out
I'm
of
just
space.
saying, because for
Okay.
me, Martians and planet Zooton,
Well, a confined space
Could be a thing.
is something that has limited entry and exit. It's typically not suitable for human inhabitants. So that just
Space.
opens up a whole. An example is the interior of a storage tank, and you have to crawl inside. I work with folks who work, obviously in bridges and construction. They got to go down little tunnels, and a
Water tanks,
special
yeah.
certification that you're supposed to have.
Yeah,
I
they're
can't follow.
everywhere. Yeah.
Right, everywhere. Entered by maintenance workers, but not really intended for human occupancy. And there's hazards like dust, gases, asphyxiation, being submerged in liquids. You don't know what chemicals are in that space, granular solids, grain bins, electrocution if there's electrical
Yeah.
wires, entrapment.
see, all of that would come into being if you're in a rocket.
And that's
or
why you
shuttle.
lock it, like
What is
lock
it now?
in
A
and
shuttle
lock.
or a rocket?
So
It's a
for this
rocket
competition,
ship, a
is it
shuttle rocket.
is it called a competition?
This is a competition. Yeah, this is
It's like a space
bid.
race.
A bid to see who has the best idea to help resolve those issues of sustainability of health and well-being
So do they
when
give
you're
you
out of
some
space.
dilemmas that you've got to
They,
try and resolve?
you come up with the dilemmas, and they
Yep.
give you some money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So show me the money, and let's go solve some outer space problems.
I was like, not saying we're definitely going to space. It's like if we were to go to space, what would you bring to the table?
What are you bringing to the
Better
table to help
design.
resolve this? Okay,
Space
so we talked about
so you
musculoskeletal.
can be like the space design.
I like the glove one. I think that's a solvable problem. That people are getting finger injuries in space because of the force on their hands.
Yes.
Surely that's a solvable problem.
You would imagine. I can't wait to be awarded this and be able to do this design discovery and understand more about space travel, right? But you can keep going through. I'm sure there's aspects of whether you're breathing adequately. Are you well hydrated? Are you able to sustain concentration? Are you going to have an anxiety and panic attack suddenly out on the moon? I mean,
And how do you resolve that?
And how many times would they have to test that in a simulated environment,
That's
right?
Because the astronauts, so those who are handpicked, they go through all of the pre-screening. But if you're starting to get other people now embarking on space journeys,
Yes.
that's right. They're not all astronauts per se. They're not all Rhodes scholars who've got their physics down pat. You're dealing with people who are more vulnerable.
It could be. It could be. You think if someone was towards the end of their life and they collected their superannuation
Yeah,
and they
$1
say, I've only got a short period to live.
Yeah.
I'm going to burn it all on a trip to space.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, live or die, I don't care. The effort, it aligns
Yeah.
with my values. I want to
Yeah.
do something novel, and
Yeah.
if I do live, it's memorable, baby. I've got it. The
Yeah,
plaque on the
so-
wall says that
I've been to space,
I've been
yeah,
to space,
yeah. True.
That, how fantastic is that, right?
That would be fantastic, but that also means they wouldn't be in their prime. So physically, they wouldn't be in their
Yeah,
prime.
I see what you're saying.
shows
So,
you-
so the exposure factors, the risk factors escalate
Yes.
when it's not somebody who is a trained astronaut, right? I went to a NASA site, I think it was in New Mexico as a kid, and oh my gosh, I still remember the frozen ice cream. We used to freeze-dried ice cream. It's all,
Wow.
it's America. We had, you had to have takeaways that you could buy after you did the school trip, right?
Yeah.
So I had packets and packets that my brother kept fighting for freeze-dried ice cream.
Yes.
I
That's
had the 3 colors. I had the chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry freeze-dried ice cream.
True.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. Do you remember space
so
food?
you have to get used to dried, freeze-dried food
Yeah.
on space. There's all kinds of extra things you got to think about.
It
right?
just shows you can't escape the iron cage that is health, safety, and well-being.
No, it's even in space.
It's an iron cage, isn't it?
It's
Everything-
everywhere.
or an opportunity. So you asked me about how would I pitch for this? How would I bid for this?
Yes.
And I'm happy to share because by the time we publish
Are you
this,
disclosing confidentiality? No.
no, because I don't want anyone
No,
to
it's
compete
public.
with me.
It's in the public arena.
This is in the public
No, but
domain.
your know-how. We don't want.
Yeah,
we
my
don't want readers,
know-how.
listeners.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
We don't
because
want leaders to pinch your ideas.
Yeah. But by the time we publish
Alan.
this, by the time we release this podcast, the entry point would be missed. So I'm okay with sharing this now and
But
this
you haven't
recording.
signed a non-disclosure agreement with us.
Or NASA.
You're
Or
gonna,
NASA. And Alan's pretty
Or
cunning.
Jamie
muscle
Fraser
in.
either.
Or Jamie Fraser.
And Alan, you're pretty cunning.
gonna
You might
muscle
steal
in
the
on
ideas.
mine. muscle in on my livelihood. Hey, I've got to feed my son somehow, mate. My
On
dog.
that note, do you remember
my dog
space
and
food?
me.
I was in grade 6 and space food was the next thing. We were told that this is the stuff you're going to eat when you travel to
So
space.
did you get space ice cream too?
No, there were sticks, these space food
What?
sticks. And what happened, apparently, if you ate them, you'd end up floating. And of course, it's a bit like when you get a high on Coca, a contact high on Coca-Cola, people go, oh, I'm so drunk. And that they call that contact high. So we'd eat these space food sticks from the tuck shop and like...
Tuck shop
I
space food?
I can feel it, but my hands are getting...
I'm floating.
I just wanted to believe
I'm
that this stuff...
floating.
It was just junk food made by one big
But it made you feel
Yeah,
good.
perception.
It's like sucking down the helium from a helium balloon, and your voice starts getting tighter, right? You think you're just floating too. I've got voice recordings of my son and I doing that. We just laugh and laugh. All right, so
Anyway,
how
yes.
am I going to tackle this, and
Yes.
how am I going to win? I work with a company right now that does extended reality, and they're
Please explain.
What does that? Yeah, what does that
well,
mean?
you're talking about, augmentative reality, virtual reality. You're
yes.
talking about artificial
Is
intelligence.
this like where you put the helmet on and you?
You can. That might
Yeah.
be one strategy of putting your VR goggles on. And,
That's right. We
And,
talked about that in season 1.
yep. Episode 9, I think. If
Go
we're
back.
there we go.
If you've only just joined us,
Go check
Go
it
back.
out.
Go back.
Go
and
back.
please, whatever
Season
you
1.
do, go
All right.
back season 1 and make sure you listen to all the ads and go back and listen to all the ads. Because we like the algorithms, we like them getting stimulated. Do it.
All right. So yeah, you might be missing your puppy. I'm thinking about pets from season 1. If you're out of space, you might be missing your pets, right? Where's
But
that?
was it a monkey or a dog that was first into space?
Wasn't it a monkey?
It was a dog, Sabaka.
sorry.
It was a Russian dog.
It was a Russian
Really?
dog. Yeah,
There you
yeah.
It
go.
never came back.
Oh, you see? All right.
Yeah,
Give it a
no,
moment
it
of
was
silence. Okay.
That's
All
right.
right. Okay. So,
Indeed.
so this extended reality company that does some phenomenal work to create digital twin environments. You've been hearing me talk about that we use for human factors to understand scenarios. What awesome work that can be done by creating an interactive product viewer with digital twin environments and scenarios. Okay, so let me go back this, wind this back. So you create a virtual world, a virtual spaceship, rocket ship, shuttle, whatever the right terminology is. Okay, you create it. You can
Flying
look at
saucer?
Flying saucer.
Well,
no,
you could
that's
test
for the
anything.
Martians, man. This is for the humans.
But isn't that
human
the idea of
interaction.
this reality?
Well,
So you can test.
Have, that's right. You might have Martians there too.
From
Okay.
Zooton?
All right. All right.
Who is Zooton?
Well, that's the thing. Martians come from Mars, but
Who's
certain
that
aliens come from planet
19
Zooton.
Bridget, 1960s starlet, with the big hair and the space boots.
Warning.
Who's that? Hold on.
Bridget,
Yeah, I know what you're thinking
not-
of. Hold on.
you can picture her, right?
Yep.
Not Bridget
This is
Lola.
the-
Oh, it's so famous too. Come on. So let
I'm
me
not sure if that classifies as porn though.
soft. Come on. It was a G-rated TV
Oh,
show
man.
we're talking about from was it 1960s, 70s?
Well,
I
quite
don't
we're into
know.
digression, but geez,
Anyway.
we've extended digression
Okay,
definition.
so,
Yes,
so
please, back to
interactive
your
product
theoretical,
viewer.
hypothetical.
So you're in the shuttle. You're in the spacecraft. Right, you're in the
Yes,
spacecraft,
that's
but
a
you
good
can look
term.
at it outside. You can turn it around, look underneath it. The maintainers of the spacecraft, health and well-being is not just for operators; it's for maintainers.
Yeah.
When there's equipment interface,
Yeah.
they can have little pop-up windows. They can have explanations. They just look at this in different space, in different 3D aspects,
Yeah.
and they get education. Now, it's not just a pop-up menu with notation and voice activation, narration. There might actually be a scenario that plays out. There might be something that pops this up and you realize, this stuff can explode. This can have a rapid decompression of air. This might, a rapid deflation. This might suddenly burn you. This might give you an electrocution, whatever. So you get these learning experiences. Now, for the astronauts,
Yes.
looking at their, extravehicular activity, their EVA, you can still use this product viewer and imagine them sitting inside their spacecraft, and then on the dash, on the panel of the spacecraft, they get to pick scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3, and there's like these video-based interactive learnings of
Right.
different things that can happen. And manual tasks would be one of them.
Yep.
Maybe their hydration.
Go to the toilet.
Their what to do when you're starting to feel a panic attack, the symptoms of a psychosocial distress,
What about a comfort break?
a comfort break, right?
toilet.
Now, all of these scenarios are options. They're imagining that they're in the spacecraft, then they click on and interact with the scenario and they get a learning experience. And this is what I'm working on in mining
It's exciting.
with I'll give them a plug, Real Serious Games in Fortitude Valley in Queensland.
Yep.
This is their expertise, right? I'm working on this in mining with them, where we're looking at the very significant task of tire handling, off-the-road tires, right? Where the mechanics in mining mechanics that manage tire handling activities, and there's specialty tire handling, specialty trained workers. They are 10 times at risk, more at risk than a fatality than any other mining maintenance activity.
Why?
Tire handling. Because of the nature of the tires, the
size.
jewelry, the environment in which they work,
Yep.
the exposures to like rapid deflations, like what we think of as an explosion of a
Yes,
tire,
yes.
changing the rims, right, the split rims that you're
Yep.
dealing with, because of the nature of the tire handling equipment that was
course.
never fit for purpose
Yes,
built.
the
You can go
the pneumatic force of
pneumatic-
those tyres, the stored
Oh,
energy.
heavy,
yes, yes.
heavy ass shit that
Yes.
can bump into you, knock you directly or indirectly, right? So now bring that into the space world, like I'm finding in most design contexts,
Yes.
that design of equipment from engineers is done to do that job. So the spacecraft are designed to get up to the moon, right? But did they think about all the human tasks that must be done? And then the idea of exploration is all in the name of science. Did they really think about all of the spacesuit? Did they really think about all the human tasks that must be done? And there goes the justification for my work, underpins that justification. What are the human interactions with any piece of equipment or objective or work system and environment we're looking at?
And this is a competition.
So I just want to check this out. So have you been watching Barbarella?
Barbarella! Thank you!
That's it.
That was it.
Barbarella.
I've got
What
the
would
big
happen if you
picture.
got Jamie and Barbarella together?
In a spaceship.
Oh man, Barbarella, man, she's competing with my Jamie. Darn. I got nothing. I don't have a flame to hold, my candle to hold against Barbarella.
Kilt.
All right, so that's
All right.
space.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of Why Work. You've been listening to Trajce, Sara and Alan, and if you'd like to know more about some of the things we've talked about today, please subscribe and we'd be more than happy to provide you with information, names of cases and other things that may interest you. Please be aware that none of the matters we've talked about today should be construed as legal advice or any other type of advice. We're just here to talk about all things related to work. See you next
So
time.
beware, you're dealing with the deadly serious, mysterious audio manuscript of a team ready and equipped.